Hello and welcome to On the Preds with me, your host Alex Doherty of A to Z Sports, and my co-host as always, Sean Smith of A to Z Sports. We are here and ready to talk about the Nashville Predators. It is episode 70, March 6th on a Monday. We are actually kind of excited to talk about the Preds because things are in a very different place than they were a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
We were just talking before the show that the Predators play Monday. They play tonight against the Vancouver Canucks, a game that, a couple weeks ago we would have been like not interested in staying up for that. Now there's not only reasons to stay up, there's reasons to anticipate a win.
Yeah.
And think that maybe that could lead to something. But anyways, what's up, Sean?
Not much, Alex. Just, getting the week started right, ready for a full week of teaching and Nashville Predators hockey. Pretty exciting stuff.
So there's been a lot that's happened. I know that we're not going to rehash everything that's happened most of the time. By now, most everyone knows all of the changes. Matthias Ekholm gone. Of course, we already talked about the Niederreiter thing, but Matthias Ekholm, Granlund gone, and all the trades that happened last week, including what we found out was the very last trade that anyone will ever make with David Poile. And that was the Rasmus Asplund, or Asplund? I'm not sure how you say it.
Asplund, probably.
Rasmus Asplund trade for a 7th-round pick in 2025. Seems like a good, pretty low-risk bet. That was the last deal that David Poile, anyone will ever make with David Poile in the league. We found that out at the press conference on Friday. But very different team that we're watching now. I mean, it just, in so many ways. I mean, not just because of the trades out, but like Johansson's not in, Forsberg's not in, now Parsonen's not in. All of a sudden, you've got a lineup with Tommy Novak leading the way, and Cody Glass is the number one center, and if Luke Evangelista is on the team, the defense has Tyson Barrie and Cal Foote in there, and Roman Josi, of course, still. Alex Carrier is injured, out 4 to 6 weeks, so now Dante Fabro is kind of a top pairing guy. What do you make of what we're watching with the Predators over the last week?
I am interested and excited. Like you said, we were talking before the show that you've got, let's be realistic here. A 9:30 start on a Monday, that's got to be a ratings killer, in my opinion. I mean, it's Monday night. People just had their first day back at work. They don't want to stay up late. They want to go to bed. You're going to start a hockey game at 9:30. But for whatever reason, I'm excited to watch this team. And now you're probably like, oh, well, you just didn't like the old players. No, I like the old players fine, but I'm excited to see the new life that's being breathed into this team right now. We've been clamoring, Alex, clamoring. A lot of clamor going on for change, a lot of clamor to see some of these guys that you've been hearing about since the summer of Luke's, since before the summer of Luke's. You want to see these guys play, and you're getting the opportunity to do that. You may have to stay up a little late, but it's exciting, and I'm ready to stay up and watch it.
I think that the last 2 weeks have been the most consequential 2 weeks of Nashville Predators hockey since probably 2007. I mean, since the ownership change, and then I guess technically since even maybe the team first got here. I mean, everything has changed from where things felt 2 weeks ago, because you feel like they have been just stuck in a bad place, a frustrating place, a place that goes nowhere for a while now, and then all of a sudden now they're not a quality team right now. I mean, these last couple wins have been kind of like, they haven't been very good. I mean, the Chicago win, Chicago kind of outplayed them a lot of the way. I would say somewhat the same way with the Florida win, because that was the one Kevin Lankinen was like amazing in. So I think it's not like this team. It's not like the team we're watching is some like amazing, cup contender or something, but it's about the vibe, right? We're all about the vibes. It's about the vibe. And the vibe is strong. The vibe is strong. The vibe is strong with this one. And it just feels different because there's no more wondering, okay, what are they going to do with these big contracts? What are they going to do with some of these older players? And I know that they only really shipped away 2 older players. I mean, I guess Nina Ryder was an older player. That's really 3. And they turned that into futures. They turned that into they brought up Evangelista. They've got Tommy Novak playing like crazy right now.
Yeah.
And I really like the Tyson Barrie ad. I didn't at first. I didn't really understand it, but now then when we found out that that they do plan on keeping him, first of all, that was kind of a question at first, and seeing him on the ice, seeing what kind of he brings, I think his sort of size and skill balance is something that fits with the Preds.
Yeah.
Of course, Ekholm was great too, but now you have an Ekholm-like player for a much shorter contract. Yeah, after next year, you're done. You don't have to hold on to Ekholm anymore, Barrie. So yeah, it's just like there's so much more flexibility now.
And I'll say too, we talk about vibes being important, and we're not just joking. I mean, did you see the brief little interview there with Tyson Barrie? The man has a personality.
Oh, you're talking about the one that the Preds put out?
Yeah,
Oh
he
my
has
gosh.
a personality. What is this?
I am so jealous of his Volkswagen van that he has. Did you see that?
His Westphalia, yeah,
Westphalia 76.
Yeah, man.
I'm actually a really big fan of that series of VW buses. I think they're amazing, and I want to ask him about it. But
It's the El Camino of buses, I would say.
it's amazing. It's like it's just
Yeah.
it's a classic. There's a lot of different series, and there's a lot of different features. I want to know what features his has.
Yeah, I think that's a conversation he'd be willing to have with you too.
I think so. It's probably the first thing I ask when they get back home from this long road trip.
Yeah.
But we also need to talk about Luke Evangelista because we see the debut of him against Pittsburgh, and he sends Evgeny Malkin into Goodlettsville,
Maybe
which was a
even
fun
jolted.
moment. I think the thing with Evangelista right now is he's just sort of like he's just extra stuff on top, right? I mean, like you already liked things that Cody Glass and Tommy Novak and to some extent Parsonen when he was here, when he was uninjured. But now it's like you get a glimpse of, okay, if this guy can be like an actual goal scorer, which he has not scored his first goal yet. He's only got an assist. But he's played very well. I mean, I think a lot of people feel like that goal is coming. Yeah. And he very clearly belongs. He does not seem out of place in the NHL.
No.
So
and I think it's interesting too that he sends Malkin flying there, and that's think about guys coming in their first few games making a big impression by taking somebody big down, or you think about Trennan coming in and breaking Chara's jaw. Wasn't his first appearance or anything, but Tanner Jeannot cartwheeling guys. I mean, I think the fans, I know I personally like an exciting player like that. I know Evangelista is not known for the, feats of strength that say Tanner Jeannot was, but you like an exciting player. You like a guy that can come in and make things happen on the ice, whether it's scoring goals, taking a big guy out, and not really being afraid to just get up and do what needs to be done to make things happen when you get pucks in deep. So,
yeah, I think it was against the Blackhawks. I'm going to go back and find my tweet about it, but I was looking at just some advanced numbers. Yeah, here we go. So against the Blackhawks, Evangelista led all Preds skaters in expected goals at 5-on-5. And he also had the second most minutes at 5-on-5 among forwards. Keep in mind, Forsberg's not in there. They've replaced Granlund's not there. Johansson's not there. There's a lot of players that are not there. So it's almost by default that he was given a lot of minutes. It's not just because he's good. There's kind of no one else to take those minutes. But he also had a lot of shot attempts, and he had some shots on goal. Like I really think that was pretty promising. It is the Blackhawks, but the Predators kind of overall were not overall very productive in that game, and they didn't have a lot of their shot-based metrics were not very strong, but he was like by far the strongest performing forward, which is good. So he had good numbers. And then against Vancouver tonight, I would imagine he's probably going to have the same kind of thing because Vancouver's not very good either, and their defense goaltending is not good. So could see some more work from him. But Evangelista, new guys. Tyson Barrie, we already talked about him, but I still think he's pretty strong. What is your impression of Mr. Cal Foote?
So let me just go on the record here. I've spent this weekend abroad in St. Louis with my son playing hockey. Didn't get to watch as much, but I did get to see Cal Foote's debut at Bridgestone. And, to be quite honest, and I wrote about this for A to Z Sports, of course. You can check that out online if you'd like. But basically, the long and short of what I said, well, I spent a lot of time praising Luke Evangelista in his debut, was that Cal Foote's debut was largely unimpressive. I don't mean that in the most negative of ways, but there was a lot of almost seemed like he was too big for his feet sometimes. Does that make sense? Like he'd find himself in the crease for some reason or bumping into Saros for some reason, almost like he was a little bit out of place or not sure exactly where he needed to be, which I attributed, hey, it's his first game with the team. It's not necessarily, the death sentence for his skills or his career, but didn't make as good of a first impression, in my opinion, as say Evangelista did in his.
What I noticed was he was just his puck skills were not very good. I didn't see anything from him that showed me, this guy has the speed to do it. He had a couple giveaways in their own zone that were kind of bad, and he just does not have the foot speed to track back very well. I hesitate to say this name, but I mentioned this to you earlier. I do think I do see a little bit of Ben Harper in him, and I think the Ben Harper thing was what you just said about being out of position. I saw that a lot with Ben Harper. He was definitely like struggling with where to be. And I think some of that, what usually happens there is what happens with, if you have a defense partner who's in a bad position, what you end up doing if you're their partner, you end up trying to cover more area. And so your area gets larger, theirs gets lost. They don't know where to go. And that usually ends up in mistakes or advantages for the offense. So I just didn't see a lot from Cal Foote that showed me that he's going to be the guy. He was with Jeremy Lauzon, who has his own issues. So maybe if you put Cal Foote with Fabro or Yossi, maybe it's better. What if you put Foote with Yossi and had him just stay back and let Yossi go roam? McDonough with Barrie and Lauzon with Fabro. I don't know. That seems like a lot of change to just accommodate one guy who's an RFA. But not sure if Foote's going to work out. But aside from that, that trade was just so massive for the Predators. I mean, like I can't even. You could have Cal Foote cut tomorrow, and they never get another game out of him, and it's still a massive, huge win of a trade for Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and that's, I think when you see some deals like that go down, we all know, we're all aware that in this sport, you see GMs try to unload somebody, maybe just to say, we're going to cut our losses with this. You can give it a shot. You can see how it works out. But at the same time, I mean, contract's over at the end of the year, correct?
Well, he's an RFA. Are you talking about Cal Foote?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an RFA. So they would have to qualify him at $950K or something like that.
So, it gets one team out of
$850K
that situation. It gets them something in return, but at the same time, if things don't work out, then the team can easily move on from it.
I could see him. I could see them qualifying him at $850,000 and giving him a 2-way contract, and he's in Milwaukee next year.
That's also true.
I could see them doing that. But there's just a lot of changes. And then we got word today that Michael McCarron is back.
He's back.
So he might. I don't know if he'll play, but he is back with the NHL squad on the road in Vancouver. So, of course, his first game in Nashville back since going to the Players Assistance Program. We still have not heard any details about that. Not that we ever will, but he's back. So that's good for him. Positive sign for Big Mike, or as they call him, Big Sexy.
Big sexy.
All right. I want to talk about the playoffs, Shaun.
Okay.
But before we do that, I would like to talk about relax the back. Because if
Oh,
you are at home and you are thinking that your back hurts or you're having some pain issues or sleep issues, basically, if you want to live better and feel better and sleep better every day, you got to check out Relax the Back because they have tons of customized comfort options for whatever you're going through, whatever pain you have, whatever sleep issues you've got going on at night, they can take care of you. Ergonomic office chairs, zero gravity chairs, all of them perfect for getting your spine in the correct position so you can work better and sleep better every day. You don't want to sleep in your office chair. No one wants to sleep in their office chair. You want to go to sleep in your bed, which they also have stuff for that too. Technogel, Temper Ergo Smart Base systems, wedge systems, and posture pillows for getting you in the correct natural position for sleeping. If you check our YouTube, you can see the picture there of the beds and the wedge systems and the massage chairs, all of it right there in their beautiful showroom floor at 2020 Glen Echo Road in Nashville. That's Green Hills. That's the Green Hills area. Go check it out there. Go down to Shake Shack, get yourself a burger and a shake, and then go to Relax the Back and figure out what you need to do to fix your back pain problems. You really got to check it out. I know that Shaun's been there. I've been there. We like going there because they know what they're talking about to fix all your issues. You just got to walk in and talk to Glenn. He owns the store, and he'll tell you about the 4 pillars of wellness: healthy sleep, healthy body, healthy work, and healthy mind. Okay, so what I want to bring up about the playoffs is I want to start by reading the results of a poll that I did today because I just said basically I think that the Predators are in a really unique position because 2 weeks ago the vast majority of people did not want them to make the playoffs, but mostly because they just wanted them to be as bad as possible to get as high a draft pick as possible. But all of a sudden, things feel a little bit different. They have a little bit of an easier schedule, so we'll keep that in mind. But I said, I'm curious where folks stand on this. Would you prefer, given the context that they've already sold? Well, sorry. Sorry, I was reading it. Never mind.
okay.
I was reading it, and then the line changed, and it doesn't matter. Given the context that they've already sold and are clearly making moves in the right direction, would you rather lose for a higher pick or say F it and make the playoffs? Would you like to know the results of the poll?
Sure.
65% of people said they would like the Predators to make the playoffs. 34%, 34.5% said they would want them to lose for a higher pick. And there were a lot of people that responded with their takes and everything. But how did you vote in the poll? I know you said you voted. How did you vote?
I did vote, Alex, and I, because there's vulgarity involved, said F it. Make the playoffs.
You went with the vulgarity one. That might have tainted. That may have influenced the poll selection.
I don't know. I mean, the sentiment, regardless, is it's not so much the fact that it wasn't vulgarity. You actually spelled out F, which was really impressive, by the way. But I mean, that's kind of the thing, though, is that you reach a certain point in the season where you kind of say, okay, has the team lost enough? Has the team performed at a level low enough where you, as the general manager or the ownership group or whatever, are ready to say, you know what, it ain't going to happen. Let's just move on. Well, now that they've moved on, I mean, it is saying F it. It's saying, okay, they moved on. The worst that can happen has happened. We've lost a bunch of players. They're changing the general manager. Let's just win out and just do the best we can to make these playoffs. Because at the end of the day, you want your hockey team to win. You want your hockey team to make the playoffs. You want them to do well. Now, Alex, I'm going to say something, and I want you to really listen closely here.
Are you going to say F it?
No. Do you want me to?
Go ahead.
It's a family program. My children listen to this.
Say whatever you want, but yeah.
They don't know me like that, Alex. I don't work blue at home. All right. Listen, here's the thing. As nice as it sounds to say F it, try to make the playoffs, I'd say the chances are still fairly slim. Now, you mentioned the wins recently, not necessarily being fluky, but not being quality wins. Or team-based wins. You had a hot goaltender in one game. And really, you just kind of saw the Preds hanging on for dear life in the other one and outlasting the other team. But We've talked a lot about how this slate of games here for the next few games is against some of the easier teams in the league, getting ready to be followed up by some teams against some of the tougher teams in the league. I'd say that the chances for making the playoffs are still fairly low, but I'd also say the other side of the same coin, the chances for tanking hard enough to have a decent chance at the number one overall pick is probably lower. So
All
I
right.
say,
So yes, let me say on those notes, because I pulled up Money Puck.
okay.
Money Puck is a great site for this kind of thing. They have a really good they've got a really good setup for how to measure this kind of thing, and I find myself relying on it a lot more in terms of playoff odds and also first pick odds and all that stuff. So right now, the Predators' chances of making the playoffs are 26.9%. That sounds pretty low. That is like triple what it was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was seriously like down to like 5% or 3%.
Yeah.
It was really low a few weeks ago. And their chances of getting the top pick are 0.5%. So there's a 99.5% they wouldn't get the top pick if they were to finish in the, this is like assuming that they get, how many points is it? It's assuming that they get 91 points. They're on pace for 91 points right now.
Right.
Which that would 26.9% of the time that would make them the playoffs. I think that wouldn't make them the playoffs personally, but how they measure it is, they predict your points based on your matchups and everything. And then here's the chances you make the playoffs at that number. So at 91 points, they would have a 0.5% chance of making the first pick. I don't even think that they would get there because I think they wouldn't be in the bottom 11. If they were to lose, by the way, they also do numbers with how, so they have like a measurement of if they were to beat Vancouver tonight, for example, in regulation, that number of chance of the playoffs would go up by like almost 6%. So they'd be almost 33% making the playoffs. Their chances of
pretty good.
Yeah. So it goes up obviously with each pick. Here's the problem. That metric does not really take into account like strength of schedule or anything. I mean, it does in a way because it predicts, your matchup with certain teams down the road, but it doesn't predict like the fact that you're going to play a bunch of playoff teams at the end of the year, all in a row, and several of them back-to-backs. And I don't think that 26% is really likely. If I had to guess, their chances of making the playoffs right now are like 15%. 15 to 20% is like how likely it is.
Yeah.
And I just think like, so there are some benefits, and I jotted just a few down. Number one, I think anytime you make the playoffs and you increase any kind of buzz about your team in Nashville, especially with how bad the buzz has been recently, it's positive. I mean, just hosting a playoff game. Let's say they were the last team in and they had to play Dallas Stars, and they have Dallas and they go down, games 1 and 2, they play Dallas and they get destroyed, and it's 0-2 coming back, and they have game 3 in Nashville. There will be a buzz, and there will be atmosphere and excitement and anticipation, especially because the team's already sold. They've already sold off they've got a bunch of young kids playing, and you've got a good goaltender. You never know what Saros can do, and who knows? And that's very different from where they were against the Avalanche last year, for sure. And then it's even different from when they were against the Hurricanes. So I think there's something to be said for that. The other big thing would be, like I just mentioned, the experience for the younger guys. Get Evangelista and Tomasino. I guess did he play in the series against Colorado? I guess he did. He got benched for one game. I remember that. But anyways, so like Evangelista, Parsonen, Novak, these guys would all get playoff experience. That'd be huge. So that's a benefit, especially if they were to win a game and see what that takes. Obviously, I mean, the chances of them going on some crazy run are just not very good. I mean, they don't have the horses for that. But you get Forsberg back, and, who knows? Forsberg is a good player, so I think they're kind of waiting for that moment and see when they can bring him back. But I don't know. What do you think about that? Is it, if they do make the playoffs, you think they could actually do something?
Well, it's funny, and you talked about there being a good buzz. You talked about them making some noise. I did something today where today or yesterday, I can't remember exactly, but I think this kind of gives an indication of how quickly things have shifted, at least fan base wise. There's an article that came out talking about the top 5 best waiver wire or waiver pickups this season. And I just screenshotted the number 1 waiver wire pickup and the number 3 waiver wire pickup. Just no context, just here they are. This is what it is, and sent it out along with the article. Of course, number 3 was Connor Ingram, who the Preds let go for nothing
Yeah.
at the beginning of the season. And number 1 was Ellie Tolvanen, who the Preds
Yeah.
let go for nothing in December. And what's interesting is something like that 2 weeks ago would have set the fan base ablaze. It would have
Yeah.
been just outburst after outburst, fire Poyle, fire Hines. This is ridiculous. And what's funny is here we are, a little over a week removed from the announcement that David Poyle is effectively, retiring at the end of the season. And it didn't even register. I mean, nobody seemed to even notice it. I tweeted, not that I'm like the Mr. Tweet man that everybody can't just hangs on to see what I'm going to say next.
Mr.
That's not
Tweet Man.
me. I'm not Mr. Tweet man here, but what I mean is that would have very easily caught fire and it
Mhm.
barely got smoke. And
Yeah.
that should give you an indication. I think making the playoffs, squeaking into the playoffs and getting blasted by Dallas in the first round, if it had been with the team that existed 2 weeks ago, would have been,
Yeah.
just funeral march. There would have been a
Def-
dirge afterwards. It
It would
would
have
have
been
been
just like Colorado. Yep.
worse than Colorado. It would have been like, vehicles would have been tipped over in the streets.
Yeah.
Things would have been set on fire in protest. But I feel like at this point, with the team that exists and the changes that have been made, the exact same results, squeaking into the playoffs and getting bounced in the first round, everyone's like, hey, but they made it to the playoffs, which is funny
Yeah.
because that's the exact scenario that would have caused outrage even a week ago.
Yeah. And the team is obviously going to be gunning for every. I mean, they want to win. They're not here to tank. They're not
No.
doing. I mean, I also think about a player like Duchesne. So Matt Duchesne has been, I might say, unfairly criticized. I mean, look, it's never wrong to criticize an $8 million player when he's not playing up to that standard. And
Right.
I think that's true. I don't think he's playing up to an $8 million standard right now. He did last year. He's not right now. But I do think Duchesne is a guy that would be able to help you carry through this next little bit. I mean, one thing that a lot of rebuilding teams don't have is like kind of high end speed and talent and skill at a top position, especially one that has done this before and has been in the league for a while. I mean, like, say what you want about Duchesne, like he's going to score a lot of goals and he's going to have a lot of points. He's not going to get 40 every year, but he's going to get you 25 or 30. And like, he'll get there this year. I don't know that there's really any problem with having him around. So like when I hear people talking about like they need to trade Duchesne's contract, I really don't agree. I think Duchesne's fine to keep around, especially because he's like one of the few that wants to be here. Not one of the few. That's wrong. We know very clearly he wants to be here. He is not interested in being anywhere else in the NHL other than Nashville. He very clearly wants to be here. And I think you don't need to trade a guy like that. You could trade Johansson if he's not injured, but I don't think you need to trade Duchesne. And then Forsberg, Josi can't really trade those guys yet. What their contracts currently situated. So yeah. Anyways, make the playoffs, don't make the playoffs. I said today or basically that I almost think that they really can't go wrong. I think the only thing they could do wrong is if they just kind of maintained this sort of average pace where they just stuck in this middle. But I don't think they'll do that. I think they'll either be bad because they have too many young guys to really win consistently, or they'll turn out hot and start winning a whole bunch of games and then make the playoffs. And I think either way is fine.
I think so too.
It would be just as fun for me to cover a playoff series as it would cover, a lottery draw where they have a chance at a top pick.
No, I think you're right. But I also think it'd be exciting just to see them making a run at the playoffs, even if they didn't make it. If they got close, if it came down to the wire and they came up a point short, it's still more exciting than just kind of being, the mushy middle kind of team where it's like, well, they might win this one, they might not. But you want to see a solid effort every night. You see them pushing, you see them keeping their foot on the other team's neck through the whole game. And that's something that I think personally you haven't seen as much recently with the Predators, is a team that is going to go full 60. They're going to get a lead, and then unfortunately they start to coast. Haven't seen that, and granted, they've kind of had to fight to maintain those leads, but I'd rather see them fight to maintain the lead than just let the lead evaporate. So I think even if they don't make the playoffs or they don't end up in the with a good draft chance or whatever you want to call it, if they're just still fighting for the playoffs or at least in the conversation, that's still a much better ending to the season than I think you were going to get otherwise.
Yeah, I would agree. So about the schedule coming up, tonight they play the Vancouver Canucks, as we talked about, 9:30. Then on Thursday they go to Arizona. They're on this long road trip now, so they go to Arizona on March 9th. That's Thursday. 8 o'clock start, I think, is what I'm seeing here. Or is that right? I think it's an 8 o'clock start.
I'll look. 8 o'clock start, yeah.
8 o'clock Central Time, yeah. And then Saturday they go to Los Angeles to the crypto.com fraud arena.
Ooh.
And they play the Kings. That's a 9:30 local start, Nashville start. And then that's a back-to-back. They go to Anaheim the next day and play the Ducks.
Ooh, and that is the end of the road trip.
That's the end of the road trip. Then they head back home to take on the Detroit Red Wings a week from tomorrow. Yeah, and that's
a lot of hockey.
The last long road trip, and they have a couple of stints to New York and then the Boston area, but that's the last long road trip of the year. So those are all not very good teams. Now Los Angeles is pretty good; they're probably a playoff team. Anaheim, Arizona, Vancouver, not very good, but I could see them winning 3 of those, losing to Los Angeles, but who knows? We'll see what happens. But that pretty much does it. Anything else you want to talk about?
I do. We're kind of in a unique situation here, Alex. And those of you listening, be well aware that we're recording this right before the Predators are set to take on the Canucks. So by the time you listen to this, you will know the outcome of the game. But I thought because we're just kind of in this random, it's a really late start on a Monday night and we're recording before the game, let's predict the score of the game. How much can we predict about this game? What's going to happen?
Okay.
You want me to go first so you can think about it? Because I've been thinking about it a lot.
Yeah, you go first.
Okay, you ready for this?
Yes.
It's going to be a 2-2 tie going into overtime, and Luke Evangelista is going to score the game winner in dramatic fashion.
That would be interesting. If he even got ice time in the overtime, that'd be interesting.
Why
maybe
not?
He should. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Why not? I mean, there's not really many other players that can play. They'd have to put someone out there.
Let's do it.
I think here's how I think it's going to go. First period.
Oh.
Roman Josi power play goal puts the Predators up 1-0. Second period, Vancouver strikes back, and they get 2 goals, and they go down 2-1. In the third period, Tommy Novak scores to tie it up. And then sometime in the final 10 minutes of the third period, who is it going to be? Matt Duchene puts the team ahead 3-2 final regulation.
Wow. So we both predicted 3-2 wins.
That's
in regulation.
Yes.
So if the question is, So the question is, if there is a way that people could vote on who they think was right before they know what we predicted, who do you think they would go for? Do you think they'd choose me, or do you think they'd choose you?
Probably you.
Why is that? Because I have a beard?
You went with Evangelista. I was also way too specific on who's going to score the goals.
I don't think so. I mean, those goals make sense. Yeah. I mean, my two regulation goal scorers were going to be, believe it or not, Roman Yossi and Matt Duchene.
Okay.
I just didn't get into. I didn't know we were getting that specific in the contest I just made up. So
Jeremy Lauzon's going to have a 5-minute major for kneeing somebody. No, not kneeing somebody. For a headshot, and he's going to get suspended. That's going to happen.
No way.
Yep. He's going to headshot. He's going to headshot somebody.
You're just getting into nonsense predictions now.
Also, Luke Evangelista is going to have at least one really nice pass, and then Cody Glass is going to have 2 assists.
Wow.
And Ryan McDonough is going to have a weird moment where he almost scores on his own net because he's trying to make a back pass. I'm getting real specific here.
Yeah, I think you're shooting yourself in the foot.
But if any of that happens, I'm going to feel like a genius.
Well, Tyson Barrie is getting 2 assists. That's all.
See, that's the trick. You got to just list out a lot of things, and you hit on one of them. That's right. All you got to do is clip that one part, and you're like, "Wow, he predicted it." Cody Glass had 2 assists.
That's all I know is Tyson Barrie is getting 2 assists. It's crazy. No one saw it coming. He's going to be first star of the game. It's nuts.
Cole Smith's going to get in a fight.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cole Smith's going to get in a fight with. Let's find someone he's going to get a fight with.
See who's still on the Canucks.
He's going to fight Tyler Myers. That's not going to go well for him because Tyler Myers.
Not going to go well. I don't think that's a good. That's not
Tyler Myers is gigantic.
He's 6'14". It's insane.
Yeah, it's not going to go well. He loses the fight, but he wins the hearts of his line mates for doing it. Oh, and Yakov Trenin. What's he going to do? Yakov Trenin is going to. If Yakov Trenin scores, he's going to fly into the glass and jump into the glass. But that's an easy prediction because that happens every time.
Not every time. Doesn't do it all the time anymore.
All right, let's close it down and see how the Predators play in this game. So, thank you for listening. Of course, please make sure to subscribe on YouTube and all that stuff, and follow us and all that jazz on Twitter. Alex Doherty1, Shaun at SCSNSH. But we do appreciate you listening to us, and we do these every Monday, YouTube and the podcast network. So thanks for listening, and we'll see everybody next week.